Dr. Sachs, please take
Thank
the
you, Sue.
floor.
Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm so pleased to be here with you. I'd like to share some really cutting edge stuff with you tonight about how your body works and hopefully how just some simple changes can make a really big difference to our health and our brains. So let me share my slides and we'll get started. It's nice to see a full house. It's always nice to see people who are interested in their health. It makes me happy. So let's see what we got here. Screen one, share. I love technology when it works. And boom. Let's try that again. Boom. There we go. Can you all see just the one slide now? Thank you, Sue. Got it. Got it. So look, tonight I want to help you make some changes to help you protect and sharpen your brain. That's the focus of the night, right? So I want to cover three things tonight. First is the gut and the microbiome, and then how the gut and the brain communicate. And finally, colorful plant foods, especially polyphenol-rich foods, are key to brain health. And I'll finish with some research-backed simple changes you can make if you want to feel better and think better, not just now, but for a long time to come. That's my hope. So let's start at the beginning. Why is this so important? What is this gut-brain axis and why is it important? Well, starting just barely 20 years ago, 15 barely, and especially in the last 5 or 10 years, the research findings into the gut-brain axis and the microbiome have really upended medical thinking totally. Gut health now sits at the center of research on most chronic diseases and most brain diseases. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autism, dementia, heart disease, diabetes even, they all connect back to gut health. So when the gut is off, nothing works right is the message. So when I mean gut, I mean the tube. It starts in the mouth and goes all the way to the other end. It's just really one long tube of the outside world going through us. It's divided by sphincters or what we call valves, but that makes different areas which have different functions and different microbes or microbiota live in each of those different selective areas that do different things for us. And honestly, the gut is just so much more than a digestive organ. In fact, it's really a sensory organ. Think about it. It's the source of our feelings, our gut feelings, our intuitions all come from our gut. And so the gut, which includes including the immune system that lives in it and the microbiome that's part of it, all of those three things, the gut, immune, and microbiome, are constantly talking to the brain, telling the brain what's going on both inside of us and based on what we eat, what's going on outside of us as well. And so the gut has its own nervous system. It's called the second brain. It's also called the enteric nervous system. It's this huge network of nerve cells throughout the entire gut, and it senses and integrates info without the input of what we call the brain, the big brain. So the enteric system, the nerves of the gut, can assess and measure everything you eat, how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat, what kind of fat, the fiber texture, all of these things the enteric system can sense, and as well the immune function signals that are going on, inflammation signals that are going on, and information from the microbiome. And this enteric system puts all that together and talks to the brain, both directly and indirectly, but it also communicates to the gut itself and changes digestion, changes the rapidity with which you go through the process, and so on. It's a constant information signaling and receiving network, just like the brain is. And the way that this system really communicates the most to the brain is through this superhighway information system called the vagus nerve. The vagus in Latin means wandering, and the vagus nerve does seem to go almost everywhere. It runs from the back of your head, called the brainstem, down through the sides of your neck, touching the throat and your voice box, and your lungs and your heart, and then all of the gut, including the internal organs like liver and pancreas and spleen. And most of this communication that happens between the vagus nerve and the brain is unconscious. But oh my goodness, that's my fire alarm going off. Excuse me. Please stop. Thank you. That happens sometimes. It's nothing. Sorry. The vagus nerve has mostly a calming effect. We're going to have to pause for just a minute, obviously. I'm so sorry. Of course, this has to happen.
We don't hear it, just so
You
you
don't
know.
hear it?
We do not.
Good. Thank you. I'm just going to continue. I can't believe you can't hear that. Okay. Where was I? Oh, just where I needed to be, actually. How timely. The vagus nerve has a calming influence. It's the opposite of stress, which I'm experiencing. It's the opposite of this fight or flight response or freeze response. Can you hear that now, Sue? Are you hearing it? Excellent. So the vagus nerve is the way that we can calm ourselves down. It's the one connection that we can consciously make to have a more calming influence on our entire body. So one way we can all do this, to have this calming influence on the vagus nerve, is to take a big breath. And when you exhale more than you inhale, that automatically slows your heart rate down. And that has the effect of calming everything down. I needed to do that right now. So the vagus nerve, by the way, is a huge area of treatment right now. Am I gone back to that slide? I hope yes. So there's a lot of information going on right now in research with the vagus nerve, also in treatment. They're using it already, both internal stimulation of the vagus nerve and external, just tapping to control tremors and epilepsy and all sorts of other really serious diseases, as well as but as well as anxiety, as well as mood disorders. So the vagus nerve, you'll hear much more about that very soon. So now let's meet the microbiome. The microbiome is this community of literally trillions of microbes, bacteria, viruses, fungi. They're living everywhere in us and on us, but mostly in your large intestines. And so they make up really about 5 pounds of your body weight. They make up about half of the amount of stool daily. And the microbiome is this dynamic, changing thing, and it reflects our environment, our stress, pets or no pets, how much skin to skin touch we have, obviously our diet, but also our hygiene and our whole birth history and childhood history. It's been even shown that our thoughts can influence our microbiome. So it's still very early days in science, but there's a lot to think about here. For example, only 1% of all of the DNA in our body is human. 99% of our DNA is microbial or mitochondrial, which is microbial. So what are we? It's kind of mind-boggling if you think about philosophy and existentialism. What are we? Are we microbial or are we human? You'll see more and more of this kind of research coming up. So let's just talk about the microbiome again for a minute. The health of your gut and your microbiome literally determine your health. A healthy microbiome has several critical functions, but one of them, a really important one, is this barrier function. The microbiome helps gut cells create this thick mucus barrier that lines the gut, and that protects our intestinal cells from toxins and from damage. And when the microbiome balance is off, the mucus layer thins and the gut barrier becomes leaky, if you will. And so both brain and gut have these protective barriers, and damage to the gut barrier often leads to damage to the brain barrier. And that seems to set the stage for brain inflammation. In the short term, that might mean brain fog or forgetfulness or mood swings and depression. But in the long term, perhaps more serious chronic brain problems actually come from this. There are a lot of other important functions of the microbiome, including digestion. The microbiome breaks down and ferments fiber. But what's important about that is that in turn, the microbiome makes many compounds that we really need. Short chain fatty acids like butyrate are one of them, but there's a lot of compounds that the microbiome makes from the breakdown of our food. The microbiome is also key in regulating immune system function and inflammation. It also is important in how we metabolize fat and sugar. That's how it influences both obesity and diabetes. It's really also important in detoxification. Many of the toxins that we might ingest or hormones, once we've done with them, need to be processed, and mostly the microbiome makes toxic things less toxic. But if you have some bad microbiome going on with some bad balance, then actually there are some bugs that make our toxins more toxic. And so another reason to have a balanced microbiome. But regarding the brain, tonight's discussion, right, there are two really other key roles of the microbiome, and those include digesting polyphenols, which we'll get into more details in a minute, specific plants with lots of colors. And by ingesting or digesting rather those polyphenols, they create these very special bioactive compounds, also called postbiotics. And the other thing that the microbiome does that's critical for brain is that they make neurotransmitters as well as the precursors or the raw materials to make neurotransmitters, which, right, are our brain active chemicals. They're what we use to think and feel and do all the things that we do in our brains. So just to summarize, that unhealthy microbiome weakens our barriers, fuels inflammation, changes neurotransmitters, and distorts our mood, our memory, and eventually our cognition. Whereas a healthy microbiome does all the opposite. It protects and supports both the body and the brain. So the next question should be, how do we influence this system? Yeah, well, there are lots of ways. As I mentioned before, the microbiome is very sensitive to lots of our environmental things, but the main way, the daily habit that matters most is what you feed your microbiome, and especially how much of the colorful polyphenol-rich plant foods that you feed your microbiome. The fiber in plants is what feeds the microbiome best. And we call these plant fibers prebiotics. The microbiome bugs, digest these prebiotic fibers and provide us with these vital compounds that reduce inflammation and protect brain cells. And we call those postbiotics. That's just the way it goes, right? And of all the different compounds in colorful plants, it turns out polyphenols are special to the brain. In addition to being powerful antioxidants, which we've always known, studies show that polyphenols improve blood flow in the brain, they boost memory and learning, they reduce the risk of dementia, and they support mood and resilience. This is a new and totally exploding area of research. So what are polyphenols? Well, they're the biggest class of colorful plant compounds. And so I hope you've all eaten some polyphenols today. Most of you have. It includes all the flavonoids and the red and purple anthocyanidins and a lot more. In the fall where I live, when the green chlorophyll of the leaves fades in the fall, the bright oranges and reds and yellows that are left, those are polyphenols. All the superfoods, the so-called superfoods, they're called that because they're polyphenol rich foods like these. So coffee and chocolate and all the berries, those purple fruit, have the highest levels per serving. The tea and herbs and spices are also very rich in a variety of polyphenols. So different colors of the rainbow contain different polyphenols, and diversity matters much more than the quantity of any single food group. So research has shown that the healthiest microbiome come from eating 30 different plants a week. That includes vegetables, fruits, herbs, spices, nuts, seeds, legumes. So instead of just thinking more vegetables, think more variety. A sprinkle of herbs, a handful of nuts, a new vegetable every week, it all adds up. So we need the variety of plants because different microbes in the gut are picky eaters. And each of them produce a very specialized line of postbiotics. So some of these microbiota bugs in our gut eat certain kinds of fibers, and then they produce free radical lowering compounds to reduce oxidative stress and calm inflammation. But some of these different bugs eat different plant fibers, and in turn they produce nitric oxide, which opens up blood vessels and more blood flow gets to everywhere, the heart and the brain as well. And then some of these different microbiomes eat even different polyphenols, and they make postbiotics that researchers are looking at very closely right now, because it seems that some of these postbiotics made from polyphenols via microbiomes actually help prevent the toxic proteins called amyloid and tau, which are associated with Alzheimer's and others dementias. So you can see why scientists are very excited by this new finding of microbiome polyphenols protecting the brain. This is all still all early days, but it is very much on the research radar right now. So in summary, again, the more plant diversity you eat, the more microbial diversity you get. And that gives you the biggest range of health protective molecules, and that's what we need to be healthy. So there's absolutely no doubt that brain health requires a plant-rich diet. Fiber without polyphenols only gets you so far. Polyphenols without their fiber doesn't get you far either. But by making just a few changes in our everyday habits, we can really affect how we feel every day, how we think and move every day, as well as how we age. So I picked just two out of literally hundreds of papers on this topic. I picked them because they're both huge and because they were both published this year, 2005. The first shows that when people, ate a vegetable-rich diet, their risk of Alzheimer's was decreased by up to 25%. And this was an interesting study because it showed that even when they changed their diet later in life, whatever that means, 50s, 60s, they still had significant benefit. In the other study I wanted to show you, they found similar findings that people who ate more vegetables than least vegetables had the least amount of depression, anxiety, and specifically people who ate the most versus the least vegetables had 26% less cognitive decline with aging and specifically less dementia as well. So these plant-rich diets, like the Mediterranean diet or the DASH diet, that's what we're talking about here, they have lots of other great side effects, like less heart disease, less stroke, less diabetes, less obesity. It's the diet that's been talked about for 30 years, plant-based diets. And so everything I've shared with you this evening and more is why the Tufts University scientists a few years back calculated that we would save millions of lives a year and billions of dollars if we just made it easier for folks to eat more produce. That is the power of produce. But the current recommendations from the USDA right now are 7 to 13 servings of produce per person per day. Let that sink in. That's a lot. So just take 7 servings a day for a family of 4, more than half your meal, half your plate rather at every meal, right? That would be for a family of 4, 196 servings of produce a week. And that's just a lot. It's a lot to find and a lot to pay for right now, especially. It's a lot to wash and shop and prepare. It's a lot to get your kids to eat. And some days are easier than others, right? Most of us on the line know about this, so we try hard. But I'll be honest, when I travel, this is really hard. So while we can all work at doing better, the question is, can food science help us? And I hope you can all see now why a multivitamin cannot do what hundreds of polyphenol-rich foods do, because the microbiome doesn't like to eat multivitamins. But luckily, there is this convenient, affordable, and proven way to help your diet and bridge the gap between what you do eat and what you should eat, and help us get these vital plants with their fibers every single day, even when our busy life makes it hard. And that's with a line of whole food products made by this company called Juice Plus that Sue mentioned before. And so 25 years ago, someone told me about this powdered produce made by Juice Plus, and I have to tell you, I was not buying it. I was quite rude. I threw them out of my office. I said, "This is all nonsense. Go away." But I was skeptical, but I was also interested in a way because it had a food label, which was really unique, still is. And it also was certified clean by an independent lab that I was familiar with called NSF. So I was curious enough to eat some crow and call them back and say, "You said you had some research. Let me see it." And I read the research, and 26 years ago, that was 5 peer-reviewed published studies, but it was amazingly high-quality research published in very high-quality journals. And so I was surprised by both the quality and the sophistication of the research, and I was blown away by the fact that they had scientific proof that these plant powders gets into the blood and then into the cell, and then causes tremendous positive changes throughout the body. And so the research alone makes these products truly unique and the reason that I'm here talking to you about them. But I learned there was even more. So for over 30 years, this company has been making these potent plant powders. They invented the concept, they've perfected it, and they are the undisputed leaders in the field of plant powders. They've obsessed about every detail. They control everything from seed to the final product. And all their products are unique and innovative and all have the same rigorous sourcing and quality control. And so one of the Some of the things that make them unique is the company controls from seed to capsule. They have long-term contracts, leases, sometimes generational, with farms that grow solely for the Juice Plus company. These are dedicated farmers who know what they're doing and who know that their soil will be tested, their product will be tested, and they cannot use any non-organic compounds because they will lose their lifetime lease. So that doesn't happen. And because this is all controlled, they're allowed to have their produce ripened on the vine where all the nutrition becomes available and picked only when that peak ripeness has been attained, and then kept cold at this slurry, 32 degrees slurry from that moment on. And it's pulverized cold, it's kept cold. And they use the skin, the seeds, the stems, the whole thing goes into this huge, like a Vitamix, a stainless steel 2-story Vitamix. So you're crunching up all the nutritionally dense skin that we don't tend to eat, as well as all the other edible parts. And then at a very low temperature, the water is removed and you have a powder. They blend those 30 different plants into one, into either 3 different capsules or 1 different stick. And then after testing it innumerably themselves, they then send it off to an independent lab for final verification that there's no heavy metals, there's no pesticides, fertile, fungicides, all the other things that we don't want in our food. None of that is there. It is always non-GMO. And so I'm comfortable saying it is cleaner than organic, which does not have this kind of level of testing of every single batch, to the point where Olympians and very high level athletes comfortably and do take Juice Plus all the time. It is sports approved. There's nothing in it that shouldn't be in it. And it still has a food label, which is still totally unique. There was another capsule on the market that has a food label as opposed to a supplement label. The FDA agrees there's nothing in here that's not food. Everything comes from food. If we need more folate, we use lemon peel. There's never a synthetic anything in the Juice Plus products. And then again, the research, which was 5 studies 25 years ago, is now 50 plus papers published in peer review scientific journals showing multiple benefits on every account. So that's why I'm here. That's all interesting. But, to be honest, there's many products out there that contain superfoods and that make all sorts of claims. But now that you all are experts and you know how the gut works and how the brain works, let's see if the science supports the idea that diet and Juice Plus products support a healthy brain gut axis. So let's just review what we know. We want a product to make up for the variety of colorful plant foods that we can't always get enough of. Doesn't mean we shouldn't try. This is not a substitute for a bad diet. This is an addition to the best efforts that we have. So we know that as a supplement for this, only real food will do. Multivitamins have no place here. The second thing we know is that we wanted to contain a lot of different polyphenols with their fiber, not just a few isolated polyphenols like quercetin or resveratrol. Nothing wrong with that, but they're antioxidants. They don't work the way we've been talking about this evening. We want both the variety and the colorful fiber. And then third, we want proof that it gets into the blood. That's called bioavailability. That's like a basic concept. And not many, if any, other companies will show you bioavailability proof that this stuff gets absorbed and that the cells know what to do with it, and you can measure all of that. And then proof that the microbiome will eat it and make these new molecules called postbiotics from it. And then third and last, does it matter? Are we sharper? Are we smarter? Are we better off when we take this product? Otherwise, it's just all research and theory. So I'm going to show you the reason that I take my Juice Plus every day is because I've answered these 3 questions, and I'm going to show you just 3 out of the 50 plus studies that have been done on this product to hopefully prove my point to you. So first, a paper published in 2015 looked at whether there were polyphenols in the Juice Plus essential capsules of fruit, veggie, and blend powders. Now this is the same thing as a superfood stick. It's the same powders, just so you know. But in 2015, we had the capsules, not the superfood powders. So what they found was a substantial amount of polyphenols. And that they said, did I show you here? Yes, this is the results that the published research study showed. And researchers rarely speak in such grandiose terms, just so you know, they're usually very circumspect. So just saying the word huge was kind of striking. I don't think these researchers were prepared for what they found, which was 119 different polyphenols, comprising 11 different classes. That's huge. That's a massive variety of polyphenols. And that they also said that the preparation of these capsules appears to preserve these components from degradation, keeping them, quote, robustly in the form they are present in plants. So number one, question mark, check. We've got variety, we've got minimally processed plants with fiber. Then the next question was, what happens in the blood and in the microbiome when people take Juice Plus powders? And so this is a 2017 study showing the absorption of numerous polyphenols for about 4 hours. But after 4 hours, there's nothing left to absorb from the powders. They're gone. And yet the amount of polyphenols did not drop. Rather, from the 5-hour mark that you see the arrows there, everything there from there on is new polyphenol compounds, postbiotics that were made entirely from the microbiome. They weren't there originally, and they weren't in Juice Plus. Only the microbiome could have made them. And so now we know that Juice Plus is food for the microbiome. It works. It worked just like food does. The microbiome ate the plants in Juice Plus and made a bunch of new postbiotic compounds that were measured in people's blood for numerous hours, 5 hours beyond absorbing the capsules. So that's yes to question number 2. It works. It gets absorbed. Now the question number 3 is, does it matter? Does it help our brains at all? And so here's a tremendously sophisticated cognitive study using Juice Plus capsules versus placebo. And this was done in young, healthy people. It's really hard to see improvement when you're already good. So keep in mind, young, healthy people is a challenge to show significant improvement. And yet you'll see that they did. And so they used 3 different standardized neuropsych tests, very sophisticated testing, and either taking or not taking the 3 Juice Plus blends in these capsules, in these essential capsules. Well, what happened? Well, these are the words of the researchers again. The results revealed statistically significant differences in all of the variables measured. The product clearly improves short-term memory, working memory, executive function, that's how well you think, selective and sustained attention, and speed of processing. You put all that together, that means you're smarter, faster, sharper, and remember more, right? So because of those 3 studies, in my opinion at least, there's a new study just starting, hasn't even begun, called Polyphenols, Microbiome, Cognitive Function, and Alzheimer's Prevention. And I hope that means something more to you now than it did maybe just an hour ago when these words might have been like, huh? So researchers who designed this study chose the Juice Plus Berry Blend capsule as the source of their polyphenols. And this study is funded by the National Institutes of Health to the tune of $10 million. It's going to follow 400 older adults, half of them on Juice Plus Berry Blend, half on placebo, looking at their gut and their brain, as well as their metabolism and all sorts of other markers. And I believe that Juice Plus Berry Blend was specifically chosen by the researchers for this study because of its long established quality and the excellence of the existing research, just like I showed you, as well as the reputation of the researchers who have done the 30 years of studies on Juice Plus. And just by the way, if you don't know this, but the NIH doesn't give out $10 million unless they think the researchers are really onto something rather important. So as a backdrop, quietly for 30 years, the Juice Plus company has been doing really important research. There are now 51 published peer-reviewed papers in over 30 journals. These studies have been done in over 50 different university medical centers on 4 continents. 3,000 people have participated in this clinical research. And so there's just nothing like it. That's why I'm a fan. That's why I haven't missed a day. There is no product on the market that has anything close. There's marketing out there. There's hype. There's social media, as we know, and there's unfortunately a lot of celebrity endorsements for products out there. But this is different. This is 30 years of integrity, of quality, and of scientific proof. And I don't have time to explore all the improvements seen with Juice Plus, get with the person who invited you. But if you're a healthcare practitioner or like many of us, a science geek or a nerd, if you're in my tribe, all the published papers are here for your reading enjoyment. There are studies on inflammation, immune function, DNA protection, epigenetics, post-op healing, periodontal disease, heart disease, lung function, skin, wrinkles, diabetes, athletic performance. I can't even tell you all of them. And the three that I just showed you on polyphenols and on brain function. The entire Juice Plus line is made from plants, and I hope that I've shown you why that's a really good idea for healthy brains and hearts and more. In fact, I have found that all the Juice Plus products improve how I feel and how I'm aging, not just me, but my patients as well. And the research I showed you earlier was focused on our flagship products, which are the essential capsules or the superfood powder. But those are the same products, by the way, the same powders. It's just a question of how you want to swallow it. But I would be remiss if I didn't share with you briefly two other Juice Plus products that seriously support brain health and that I'm very grateful for. The first is Omega Blend. All of our cells, especially our brain and our eyes and our gut, need omega fatty acids, but we don't need to overfish the ocean. Fish oil is not the only way. We can get what we need with a combination of plants and seeds. An Omega Blend is a clean, sustainable, unique vegan formula with published research showing that it works to significantly raise omega-3 blood levels. And omega-3 is being used in an ongoing study looking at adolescent brain health, a fascinating study that's going on right now. And the principal investigator for that study is the world famous Dr. Emmerin Mayer, who you may know about because of his books. He's the author of several of them, and he's also one of the 5 world-renowned scientists speaking at the Nutraceuticals Conference in Indianapolis on September 25th. This is a CME, or continuing medical education conference, and it's sponsored by the Juice Plus company. And all of you are invited to come. Ask the person who invited you to this to get more information. And then lastly, my new favorite, Luminate. Luminate is mushrooms and herbs specifically for mood and memory and focus. It's actually a healthy alternative to an energy drink or just a tasty way to get important brain benefits. Lion's mane and other mushrooms have been shown to help memory and protect brain cells. And this has become my daily pleasure. I just love this stuff. I can't get enough of it. I enjoy the focus lift in my mood and the energy that it gives me. So in closing, there are other things that research shows are important for keeping our brains and our hearts strong. You can see the list. There's a lot of evidence as well, though, that we live much better and longer. In fact, 24% less dementia risk when we focus on these 3 things. Whoops, I didn't show you the list, did I? These 3 things in addition to the more well-known things, which is sleep, avoid alcohol, avoid brain injury, and controlling your blood pressure and your blood sugar. But interestingly enough, these 3 things I'm going to show you have also shown 23 to 25% decreased risk of Alzheimer's and dementia, as well as just cognitive loss as we get older. And the first is ongoing learning and curiosity, a sense of purpose and mission, and a community, a sense of belonging to a greater community. And so sharing this information with you allows me to be always learning and curious. This is my purpose and my mission, and you are all my community. And together with the Juice Plus company and their partners, I am glad to have you all here this evening. And my hope is that this information will inspire and empower you to take better care of yourself and those you love by making some simple changes. If all you do is eat more plants and give a thought to more variety, more colors, I've done my job, I'm happy. If you decide to add these powerful plant products to your diet, get back with the person who shared this information with you and get started. But if you too would like to have purpose and mission and be part of a community out to change the health of the world, we would love to have you join us and help us spread the word. So thank you so much for your attention this evening. I will close by leaving you the reminder to get back with the person if you're interested in anything, including the conference in Indianapolis that's coming up soon. Right. Thank you all for your attention. Good night. Back to you, Sue.
Dr. Sachs, on behalf of everyone on this call, please allow me to thank you for
Oh,
your
yeah.
time, for your information, and for putting a positive spin on side effects. So often we think of side effects as negative, and you put a positive spin on it. Our food has positive side effects, or certain food it can have certain positive side effects for us. So that's wonderful news. Thank you. And As Dr. Sachs mentioned, if you're a guest tonight and you have any questions, please get back with the person who invited you to tonight's call. And now, Lori, we can stop the recording and open up the lines if everyone else wants to say thank you.